So folks, today shakedown sale. Guess what happened? Where did we go? Nowhere.
Nowhere.
Why?
Why?
Why did we go anywhere?
Engine problems.
As always. Yeah, so the good old diesel got kind of cranky, or actually not, and it slowed down on us, and only at high RPM it would kind of be alive still, and then it kind of slowed down and wouldn't start at all anymore. And then I noticed when I fired it up that she wouldn't even make smoke anymore. So there's no basically no combustion happening. So I'm thinking we might have a fuel problem. I would assume after slushing that old fuel tank around a little bit, that there's some sediments in there that kind of filled up the fuel filters, the pre-filter and the actual filter, and now it's clogged up and we don't get any fuel. And yeah, so no shakedown sale. We are here and having a couple of sundowns and I guess a barbecue. You always got to have a plan B, right? It's boat life. Boat life. Moin! Isn't that cool? What's up, guys? So today's episode is not about shakedown sale because it didn't happen. We have engine problems again. So here's the thing. When we motored into the slip, I noticed I had a little bit of a power loss, but she was running okay. So now when we were ready to sail out of, or motor out of here, out of the slip to go sailing, I noticed it was hard starting the engine, and then I could only get her running on high RPMs, and later on not at all anymore. And then funny thing, she wouldn't even make this white smoke anymore like unburned diesel. There was nothing. So what I'm assuming is I have a fuel contamination issue coming from the tank, because I've changed all the filters, bled all the lines, put new fuel in, but me, not so genius, and that's why I'm really mad at myself, did not clean out the old tank. So there must have been lots of slush in there, and now when the boat was in the cradle, or in the sling, being basically craned in, and so forth and so on, and being in motion, I assumed that there was a lot of slush actually slushing around, or diesel sludge, and now being sucked up and ending up in the pre-filter and possibly even in the fine filter, and hopefully not further than that, and that is killing the engine. So I think there's no fuel getting to the combustion chamber. Because of that, today is not shakedown sale. Today is how to clean out a fuel tank. And the only good thing about this is here in that boat lives under the port side locker floor, so I can hopefully unscrew that, take it out, and there's a PVC tank, so it has been replaced before. And it has a service hatch with all the feeding lines, the fuel supply line, the vent, and I think there's also a gauge on that. But anyhow, so I can take all the screws out, have an opening that is yay big that I can get my hand in there hopefully, and then once everything is sucked out without spilling anything, I will clean that out properly. Then takes the line off to the pre-filter, takes the old pre-filter off and replace it with a new unit with a proper water separator and a 5 micron filter, and then make my way, replace all the hoses also, make my way to the engine, to the actual engine Volvo filter, replace that also, bleed all the lines, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, she'll fire up again. So that is what today's episode is all about. It's contaminated fuel and cleaning your tank. Completely unnecessary. Don't ever do that to yourself. Alright, you guys, here we are. So as you can see, there's like a service thing on top, and I will unscrew the whole floor here, open it up and clean it out. So the screws came out relatively easy. So far so good. I want to lose that one here. I lost another one, of course that had to happen. There is the tank, 33 liters. So that's a PVC fuel tank. This here is a vent line and this is a fuel supply line. We got a little measure gauge and this is a fill cap and this is a service lid that I can take off to clean the tank. So now we'll pump her dry, clean her out, and then here's a pre-filter, the fuel pre-filter. And I bet you that is already pre-gunned up down there. So I will replace this entire unit. So I use the same pump that I used to change the oil with. That seems to work pretty alright. Obviously diesel is way thinner than oil, so it shouldn't give me any trouble here. So I pumped her empty as far as I could get it with the hose, and now we'll open up the service lid and see what we find. I saw already plenty of slush coming up, so I think we're well on our way here. So now that I have pulled it apart, I see already quite a bit of slush. I'll give you the mouse eye view of the tank. There went the gasket, so I have to get that back out. But yeah, I mean, you get the idea. All that black stuff down there will eventually end up in filters and clog up the engine. So, time to clean out. So, just going through this for the very first time, there you can see that black stuff. That's a deposit that will end up in the filters. Yeah, so it looks way better. I've used a soda cleaner that worked great to degrease the tank from inside and out. So I think we have made progress. Looks pretty alright for the most part. I think I got not all of it, but most of it. That corner there could use a little bit more cleaning. So I'll go in one more time. Alright, the tank is clean. It looks really well. Really good. I think that mission has been accomplished. Now I put the lid back on and it had a little float. A little cork float. It goes back in there. And that fuel supply hose goes back in there. Now I hope that will be reasonably clean. The vent line isn't a problem, that goes up, but what is kind of a slight problem, and I don't know what to do, filter that I want to replace. And it has an in feeding line that isn't a big deal, but this guy here, the outline is, I don't know, copper line or whatever. So I have to see what comes from the engine side. Alright you guys, so I just got my stuff from the marine store, so I just unpacked. Sorry for the mess here, it looks a little bit chaotic, but anyhow, so this is my water filter, drinking filter, so it's a project for another day. And some tape and so, and what else? Oh yeah, the anchor well will be upgraded with a nice big chain locker hatch for the chain where it runs down. So what we do today is, after I've cleaned out the fuel tank, I want to install this pre-filter with a water separator. Now the tricky part is, as you might recall, there was a weird old copper line that feeds on the old Bosch filter up in here, so that would be out towards the engine, and then there's 1, 2, 3 ports on that like this where the hose goes on coming from the tank. So my problem is now to figure out how I can mount this old copper line onto one of these ports. And I'm hoping if I unscrew the threading here, that the threads on the other one will be equal size, and that I can use the attachment, maybe bend it a little bit and put it on, excuse me, that's out here, on the outside here, outflow. If that doesn't work, plan B would be to put this filter with a water separator in front of the other one, because the other one did not have an actual real filter in there. And hence it's only a water separator. I figured I put them in a row, basically this from the fuel tank to the other water separator filter and then to the engine. So it feeds into the engine, into the pump, and behind the pump is the actual filter for the Volvo engine. I have that filter also. So we will replace the pre-filter, figure that whole job out. That is actually my biggest headache right now. And then replace the filter at the Volvo engine. And I'm intending to use a really strong PVC type plastic bag instead of an oil drip pan, because I believe I can place it better underneath the filters without spilling anything. Now the detail is it has to be a really thick PVC type plastic bag, not those thin ones. That will not work. And if you have a little hole in there, I mean, I don't need to explain what's going to happen. You will mess up your whole boat with diesel. So that's why it has to be a really thick PVC type plastic bag. Yeah, so that is the project in a nutshell. And also purchased 1 meter of fuel line, which I intend to use for the connection between the just cleaned out fuel tank to the pre-filter, and from the pre-filter to the other filter, or possibly to the engine then. So we'll see how it goes. That is still option A or B coming out as we are proceeding in the project. So got the old filter out. Now I have here the head of the new one. And we will go in this way, out that way, and I can use the copper threads of the old copper line that fits in here. And this will be blind, this will be blind, and the drain plug will also be secured. So before I do that, I treat everything with brake cleaner. Just to make sure that I have no grease anywhere. And I use this product from Liquid Moly. Again, I had good success with that. It's like a thread fastener sealant. So now I gotta pay attention that I get that the right way around. Well, that was a bit overly generous. I didn't intend to use that much. So here we go. Last but not least, that guy here. That is my inline. So I intend to put it right here. On the outline I use the threading that I have from the old copper pipe that will go in here. So that should be tight enough. That also, the copper will do its job and seal it up properly. Yeah, and then I feel like I put probably some Loctite into the threading in here also. Makes the job easy on the other side then. You don't have to smear it on the copper threading. And I'm not going to use this one, but I use the copper seal, the little gasket here, that I will use. So now this line to the tank, that's the vent line. So got that fuel supply line going over to the filter, pre-filter, and then going from here down to the engine, to the pump. Well, we'll get the main engine filter. This here is the spare filter for the Volvo engine, for the MD1 Bravo. And it comes with all the seals and the filter itself. So that's a pre-filter, and that's the actual main filter, and that's a spare for the pre-filter. There's a new one with a kit. A little contraption that's supposed to help you to get it out of here, but in this case it falls off, it doesn't hold itself anymore. So it's unfortunate. I gotta use a screwdriver to get that thing out and then see how much gunk is in there. I have to clean that out. I use some brake cleaner and dispose the old filter. And stay down there, and now we put the new one in. That's why I like to use a plastic bag. I find it a bit easier to control. Much better already. Trying to vent the system. Here it comes, bubbles. You can see a little flipper pump down there I'm using to pump the system. And it's still bubbling. Here she comes. I want the bubbles to go away. Takes a while to fill the whole bucket. I should have put some diesel in ahead of time. Would have made it a bit easier. Still no start. Italian evening on Vaquita. Dinner for one. Well, I did not get to a point where I could start the engine up. It will not fire up. I'm thinking at this point either I have a problem with a pump, or if it's not the pump, it's probably the injector. Here we go again, engine trouble. Rebuilding the pump, the injector, and hopefully after that, I mean, then I literally would have rebuilt the entire engine. It should actually work. There's not much more that it could possibly be. Oh. Boat projects, right? Stove is good.